members, it's now the turn of Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the report that has been laid. I want to start off by quoting a statement that was made by the former Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Bawumia, at the launch of the NPP's manifesto in 2024. Mr. Speaker, he says that, and this is when he was giving an update on the performance of the Gold for Reserves and Gold for Forex program. He says, I'm happy to say that the two policies that helped rescue the economy from the catastrophe in the recent crisis were the Bank of Ghana's domestic gold for the domestic gold purchase program and the gold for oil program. The pilot has worked for a number of companies, some of which wanted to take Forex out of the jurisdiction. We have thus found a solution to profit repatriation without destabilizing our local currency. He goes on to say that, Mr. Speaker, my government will completely institutionalize what I call the Gold for Forex program, even as we intensify efforts to transform the structure of the Ghanaian economy. Simply put, the domestic gold purchase program is a policy which allows the Bank of Ghana to boost its foreign exchange reserves by buying locally produced gold with cedis. And he goes on to talk about the benefits, including the fact that gold will now become the anchor of the Ghanaian currency. Mr. Speaker, earlier today when we met the Finance Ministry, the Bank of Ghana and the Gold Board, we put a question to the governor who was represented by the second deputy governor. Is the policy to buy gold to shore up our reserves, be it in bullion or in Forex, new? And her answer was categorical. She said, no. Mr. Speaker, it is a matter of public record that in 2021, the NPP administration came up with the domestic gold purchase program, which seeks to ramp up our reserves by using cedi to buy gold and shore up our bullion reserves, or by using cedi to buy gold, trade it for Forex, and add it to our Forex reserves. Mr. Speaker, if therefore a couple of years down the line, our colleagues on the NDC side come to power and they find this policy useful, they don't need to attempt to rebrand it and give it a new name as a Ghana Accelerated National Reserve Accumulation Policy. They don't need to do that. What they need to do is to be candid to the Republic of Ghana and say, we inherited a working program. And probably what we want to do is to build on it. You need candor in economic policy management. Don't try to rebrand it, give it a new name, polish it with some colors, and now create the impression that it is something new that you are thinking about. Mr. Speaker, we asked the government side today what the two pillars of this gold component are. And they told us that they will be using cedi to buy gold to add to the bullion, and using cedi to buy ASM gold, trade it for Forex, and add to Forex. Mr. Speaker, that is gold for reserves and gold for Forex. You can turn it, you can bake it, you can cook it. It is still the same thing. So, Mr. Speaker, we on this side will support this policy because what they have done is to continue what was introduced by Dr. Bawumia. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we encourage them that today's voter is sophisticated and understands what's going on. When you introduced the commitment controls, we have commended you that it is actually a good policy. You don't need to go on with this thing where every time settings. Admit it that this is a program you inherited and you are continuing. Mr. Speaker, the second point I want to make is that what this government has now announced as a policy demonstrates the confusion in their circles. A few weeks ago, this government told us that they were of the view that we had so much gold concentration in our reserves, and so they have sold 50% of our gold reserves and converted it into US dollar-based assets. Mr. Speaker, there are questions about that transaction already, the timing, the scope, and the window with which it was done. And already we have filed motions to have that transaction and then the losses on the gold purchase program properly investigated, without prejudice to whatever the outcomes will be. They have now come back to this house that they are asking for policy approval to go and, among other things, buy more gold to shore up our reserves. Why would you sell 50% of our gold reserves only to turn around a few weeks later that you want policy approval to go and buy more gold. And by the way, at the time they sold the gold, prices were around $4,000. By now, it's somewhere around $5,200. So already we have lost about $1,000 an ounce on the quantum they sold.
Honourable Member, your time is up. I will proceed to give the floor to Honourable Richard Achampong.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the report before us. My good friend Honourable Oppong Nkrumah used to call on government to submit policy document before this House. Today, the document is presented before this House and he has a cause to complain. So, Honourable Oppong Nkrumah, you can't choose and pick. Mr. Speaker, within these few years or months, Gold Bond has raked in about $10 billion. They used to borrow Eurobond at the rate of average 6%. Assuming we took a loan of $10 billion, we would have paid $600 million as an interest. And there's no interest on it. This is a forward-looking government. It is projected that by the end of 2028, gold price will soar up. So what do? Let's take advantage now. So that we'll bring the policy document, the House will approve of it, and even if they want to liquidate it, they have to go through cabinet and come to parliament for approval. They can't sit in the office and take any decision. You did not do that. And they are yet telling us they started this program. What was the end result? What was the level of the appreciation or the depreciation of the cedi? You implemented all these policies, but the end game was zero. The end game was zero. You let inflation 23.8%. Today is 3.8%. The cedi has appreciated more than 40%. Instead of patching up at the back, you are here trying to run down the program. And Mr. Speaker, it's not only the gold. If you check the document presented to her by the minister talked about gas to power program, oil development program, cocoa reforms initiatives. All these things are going to put together to make sure we see a stability. When we were going for the elections, dollar was exchanged at 17 Ghana cedis. 17. It came down to 16. At the time, if you needed $10,000 or $1,000, you need 17,000 Ghana cedis. Today you will need 11,000 Ghana cedis. 6,000 difference. This is forward-looking government. So, Mr. Speaker, it's not about being opposition and you have to criticize everything that the government is doing. Let's give credit when it is due. Tell us that you could not do it. But you thank God there's a new government in place which is looking forward, which is putting in place measures that will yield positive results. Today, if you go to the pump, they don't ask you if you're an NDC or NPP card bearer. When you are buying fuel, look at it. Prices of goods and services have dropped. This is what we are talking about. This is the resetting agenda we promise the good people of this country. So please, if you come fight them, you join them. Come and join us. And don't think of winning the next election so that you poo-poo every program that we present to you. NDC has come to stay. And you remain in opposition with this attitude for a longer period of time. So, Mr. Speaker, this is very positive information given to us. When we met at the committee, all of them praised the minister that it is about time we support this administration to succeed. If NDC succeeds, Ghana will succeed. And NPP people will benefit. So, Nkrumah, Honorable, you started it, you couldn't achieve anything. Governance is continuing. I do agree with you. But this is the time we are yielding the positive results. We are not using money to dig holes in the name of cathedral. No. We are putting the money where our mouth is. So please, Mr. Speaker, the traceability thing Honorable Afo talk about, they are saying because of the growth board that we put in place, guarantee activities will increase. Whether we have gold board or not, people will still do galamsey. So let's find a lasting solution to deal with the galamsey menace. That's another matter. So gold board is giving us the positive result. Let's all embrace it, support the finance minister, so by the end of the day, Ghana will develop any shock, we can sustain it. We can't run to IMF every time to borrow money and pay interest. Mr. Speaker, I still have 15 seconds. So, Mr. Speaker, this is very welcoming news. Let's all embrace it. And I'll conclude by saying,
Honorable members, I'll proceed to give the floor to Dr. Amin. Honorable members, I don't want any confusion. This is the list you've given me, and I'm going by the list.
I give you information.
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion on the report. Mr. Speaker, as my colleague Honorable Oppong Nkrumah said earlier, we are not against any policy to support reserve accumulation, because we know that it will help build the resilience of the economy. Yes. And so for that matter, we support this policy, except that as a responsible opposition, we need to bring out areas we think are flawed so that the minister can address those areas to improve on this policy and its implementation. First of all, as far as reserves are concerned, this is not the first time we have built reserves beyond the traditional benchmark of 3 months of import cover. The traditional benchmark of 3 months of import cover was exceeded by us in 2024. In fact, we achieved 4 months of import cover. 4 months of import cover, amounting to 9.6 billion United States dollars. And so, if they are able to go beyond that, that is an improvement we must acknowledge. But to say that this is the first time you are going beyond the traditional 3-month benchmark, it is not true, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having said this, the report indicates that under this program, the government would target to buy 127 tons of gold annually from small-scale miners. That is worrying for me, because even at lower volumes, they couldn't achieve their target from traceable gold. They had to resort to buying gold from galamsey operators. And this, His Excellency the President Mahama, alluded to this. And so with the level of volumes they are talking about, 127 tons annually from small-scale miners, I am afraid our environment is in danger. The lives of Ghanaians are in danger, because this government, as they have done before last year, will resort to buying these volumes of gold from galamsey operators, and that is not good for our country. Mr. Speaker, the report also says that gold reserve-based accumulation can occur without distortions to the domestic market, but that cannot be true, because gold reserve accumulation or reserve accumulation in general is a balance sheet operation. And therefore, because of the volumes they are talking about, we are going to see large injection of cedis into the market. But to maintain the levels of inflation we have today, the Bank of Ghana will have to go back using sterilization to withdraw or mop up this liquidity again. This certainly will lead to distortion. Apart from this, sterilization has a cost. And with the level of volumes we are talking about, the cost of sterilization is going to be very high. And that will lead to losses at the Bank of Ghana. If you are bringing a policy to accumulate reserve, we should have a policy that will not lead to losses at the Bank of Ghana. Because when you do that, it distorts the balance sheet. And this is why I do not agree with them when they say that you can do gold-based reserve accumulation without distorting the domestic market. Mr. Speaker, in this report, they also sought to do comparison between
the money that was borrowed to accumulate reserve between 2017 and 2024, which they said was done at a cost of $3.8 billion. Mr. Speaker, this was interest cost. But today, they are seeking to compare that with the losses that the gold board recorded when they were selling gold. The losses that occurred at the gold board as a result of their transaction was 214 million United States dollars. Interest costs cannot be compared with losses. The reality is that the 214 million US dollars resulting from the $10 billion gold board brought were losses, and the IMF alluded to this. And so you cannot compare that with interest costs from the borrowing which was done to build reserve under our government. And so, Mr. Speaker, the government must be truthful and they must be transparent, and they must not seek to deceive the people of Ghana using numbers. The contexts are different. One is interest costs, the other is losses. Mr. Speaker, the minister, through this policy, is also
Honourable Member, your time is up. I now give the floor to Atta Issa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin by making this correction that Gold Board did not make any loss in 2025. Let me thank the Minister of Finance for this bold policy initiative. They did not make any loss for 2025. Mr. Speaker, I hope my time will be okay. So, Mr. Speaker,
The timekeepers, please stop his time. Please stop his time. You know we are not taking any point of order. We want to have an interrupted debate. So, please let the debate flow. On either side, I was not taking point of order. So let his time resume. Honorable Member, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This policy is a shift from a debt finance reserve accumulation that we are used to in the past to a commodity anchor reserve accumulation through the gold board. The objective, like it is already stated in the report, is to ensure that in the next 3 years we achieve 15 months of import cover by 2028. The idea of using the buffer building strategy is aimed at exchange rate stability, inflation control, debt sustainability, and external shock resilience. For a commodity-dependent nation like Ghana, I think this is strategically significant for us. There is nothing wrong with associating yourself with good policies. So let's not blame the NPP if they want to gain some of the credit that we are having. But it must be backed by data and facts. Let's look at the past regimes, your effort in terms of reserve accumulation. And Mr. Speaker, the external borrowings through Eurobonds alone, between 2018 to 2021, Ghana issued $11.025 billion in Eurobond market at 7.6 to 9.6% interest. This resulted in high interest payments, increased external debt, vulnerable to global financing lightening, eventual debt distress, and reserve were accumulated in terms of debt, increased debt. Number two, the short-term FX instruments that they use in terms of increasing the reserve, in 2022 to 2024, they use swaps, sales and buybacks, short-term facilities, and raised 5.65 billion accumulated cost. In interest alone, they paid 1.16 billion United States dollars in interest. This created a rollover risk, hidden quasi-fiscal costs, and artificial reserve deals. In fact, that's what you always talk about when you say the gold board is artificial. This is what you did through the swaps by costing this country 5.6 billion United States dollars in terms of short-term debt. Mr. Speaker, on commercial borrowing as a result of an artificial way of making sure that we build our reserves, NPP borrowed money from JP Morgan Chase, Standard Chartered, Citibank, and they borrowed an amount of $2 billion became a cost to this country in an attempt to build reserve. they incurred $2 billion as interest costs to this country. Mr. Speaker, in portfolio inflows, in 2017, the famous Franklin Templeton $2.25 billion United States dollars, we ended up by paying 7.3 billion Ghana cedis in interest. So any attempt you people made in terms of reserve accumulation, you incurred costs to the Ghanaian public. Mr. Speaker, why does this one differ from the others? First of all, we are moving from the debt financing to commodity financing, which is now the global trend. Go to Russia, Australia, and many other countries are moving from debt financing instrument to commodity financing instrument. And I hear them saying that we depleted 50% of the gold reserves in our banks, with Bank of Ghana. You don't keep natural resources forever. You do spotting and hedging properly. If imagine that we had kept the gold at $5,000 and today it's sold at $500, what would be the value of the solid gold? So we are moving from the debt finance to asset-based accumulation to we are also reducing the interest burden that these people bedevil this nation with. Borrowing or building reserves with an annual rate of 7 to 9% external borrowing cost. Speaker, we are successful with this our reserve accumulation policy because of the following. Because of the strong macroeconomic stability that we are gaining. If you look at the reserves, it rose from about 9.11 billion to 13.85 billion United States dollars. CD appreciated by 40.7%. That guarantees stability. We also see inflation falling from 23.8% to 5, in fact, currently 3.8%. And then debt fell from about 61.8% to about 45%. So what exactly are you saying that it is your policy? In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, gold purchases or domestic gold purchase program is not an NPP policy. In fact, since central bank work...
Honorable member, your time is up. Your time is up. It's now the turn of Honorable Gideon Bako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, it is important we are talking about reserve accumulation through commodities, i.e. gold, at this time, because as we all understand, history has taught us that from President Kufuor's time, where Ghana made its first appearance in the Eurobond market, all successive governments, from Professor Mills to President Mahama to Nana Akufo-Addo, have gone to the Eurobond market. So until we got the knowledge and understanding to use gold to back our currency and our reserves through the instrumentality of the former Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, previous government had resorted to the Eurobond market to accumulate reserves. Mr. Speaker, it is important to stress that the lowest rate of interest for entering the Eurobond market by Ghana was realized during the period of the previous government, and during the period of the NDC government, we had higher rates of interest. So if anybody has a cause to worry as to how much interest Ghana had incurred or paid as a result of patronizing the Eurobond market, that was recorded during the period of the NDC. Mr. Speaker, it is important that as we are discussing this reserve accumulation, we understand what this policy stands on. This policy stands on two main pillars. One, gold to be bought by Bank of Ghana in reserve, that is gold for reserves, and then gold to be bought and then changed into dollars, that is gold for reserves. Mr. Speaker, this reminds you of what has happened before. This gold policy, accumulation policy, mutatis mutandis, is the same as the gold for reserve policy that was instigated under the period of the NPP. What has changed? What has changed in actual sense is how this government intends to do that. And our fundamental problem with that, Mr. Speaker, we are talking about reserve accumulation and reserve management that falls directly under the purview of the Central Bank of Ghana. But what do we see today? This policy is presented to this House by the Finance Minister. This is clearly a breach, an administrative overreach. We are seeking to capture the mandate of the independence of the Central Bank, and that is not true, right? Mr. Speaker, if you go through this policy and you read paragraph 43(1), it talks about the fact that there's going to be a central committee that will be chaired by the Minister of Lands and the Minister of Finance. It does not even give the Central Bank, that has the sole mandate for reserve accumulation and reserve management a seat at the top of this committee. This is not right, Mr. Speaker. Again, this report also talks about the fact that the gold shall only be sold by the central bank subject to prior approval of cabinet and parliament. Mr. Speaker, this is not right. This is administrative overreach. The gold that is going to be kept by Ghana as reserve is the direct mandate of the Central Bank of Ghana. I understand and I know there's an attempt by this government to step capture the resources of the state. And this government is doing that through this policy. We should not allow, Mr. Speaker, for the executive arm of government to dictate the part of our reserve accumulation and decide when and how our reserves must be sold for forests in this country. That is perfectly not right. Mr. Speaker, it is also important that as we talk about this whole document from page 1 to the end, when you go to the content, it allocates costs and benefits to be treated under page 19 and 20. Mr. Speaker, I have gone through this document. There is not a single mention of how much this is going to cost the people of Ghana. We need to know. And Mr. Speaker, come to think of it, who is talking about reserve accumulation? There is a tree orthography that quatrikwaso bema wontoma TND to wait. If the naked man promises you a clothes, you need to listen to the name of that. This government, this very government, came to meet reserves of over $9 billion. They came to meet gold accumulation reserve of over 32 tons. They sold 18 tons plus $10 billion of gold through gold board. That adds up to 12 to 13 billion dollars. Mr. Speaker, out of this 10 to 13 billion dollars, only 4 billion is realized in our reserves. Only $4 billion is added to our reserves. Where is the gold? Where is the forest? Where is the reserves? So today, if you come back to tell us that we should give you mandate to buy gold for reserves, what is the trust? Where is the credibility? The ones you came
Yes, leadership.
Mr. Speaker, we will yield to Senior Honorable Kobe.
Yes, Honorable Kobe, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this program, rightly as said, is an NPP program that the NDC is trying to capture and claim and also hide their own inefficiencies in this program. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, we all know what has gone on with this program under the NDC, with the large losses of over $240 million to the state. Mr. Speaker, one key area that I want to dwell on is the issue of the sourcing program. First and foremost, we are told about bonuses and discounts. And the question I want to ask on this program is, why is government paying discounts and bonuses? First and foremost, if anybody is buying gold from any market, all you do is that the person paying money because he's buying large quantities is given a discount, more as a profit. And when he sells the gold outside, he also makes profit. So why, in this case, government of Ghana, under the gold board, is paying discount to somebody who is actually selling the gold to him? Clearly, Mr. Speaker, this is criminal. And I believe that they want to use this policy to authorize that criminality and that illegality. Mr. Speaker, it is very fundamental that if this is a public policy, this is going to be a cost to the state. And it is one of the reasons why we lost $214 million. So, Mr. Speaker, if this is a policy, that part should be struck out of this business. Mr. Speaker, the Bank of Ghana and the government is clearly a monopoly. They set the prices. And if they are setting the prices, under what circumstances are they setting prices to make losses and go and pay another bonus? Clearly, this is criminal, and we need to look at it and take it and strike it out of this policy. Mr. Speaker, going forward, we are also being told that there's going to be a traceability mechanism So far in the last 1 year, they've not done any traceability, clearly showing their incompetence and inefficiency in managing this program. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the target is to buy a minimum of 20 billion worth of gold every year. Where is the money coming from? Is the governor going to print money to pay for it, or Ghanaians are going to be taxed to pay for it? Because the first budget that was read by Honorable Atuforsen, he made mention was going to make available in excess over 200 million to the gold board to be buying the gold, which meant that that was going to come from our taxes. So far, it has not been indicated anywhere here where those monies are going to be coming from. So I believe that, Mr. Speaker, if the NDC has a major agenda to accumulate gold, nobody stop them, because the fundamentals of that gold purchase program had already been laid for both for forex and also for reserves. So, Mr. Speaker, if the NDC want to be accumulating gold, what is their track record? Last year, we did 4 months of import cover for reserves. They've only added 1.6. 1.6. So if you are looking at their record for the next 3 years, we are only looking at 10 months of import cover and not the 15. So I believe that they only brought these documents to us so that they can be seen to be doing something, and they can hide under it and be paying these bonuses and the discount to themselves and go and share. This clearly, if you are not careful, is going to lead to create loot and share. And we have to be very careful with the policy we are implementing. We need to take that part out of this policy. We need to take that part out, because the market, when it works so well, and it has been working so well, and we cannot allow officialdom to be added to this document to protect that criminality that we suspect is going to come from this paper. So, Mr. Speaker, as for policy, we know that the governor of Bank of Ghana has the right in determining monetary policy. We also know that the Bank of Ghana has a developmental responsibility as well. They've been doing it already. So there's nothing new under the sun that this policy is bringing, apart from giving us some fantasy for us to quickly get hooked onto it, and they will use their discount and their artificial bonuses to create loot and share. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Majority Leadership. Yes, Majority Leader. Very well. Honorable Lampim Nyako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity and to thank honorable members for their contribution in support of this wonderful policy. I have listened to them, and clearly one theme runs through their contributions. They all support this policy. That is the most important thing. As to trying to take credit about the genesis of this policy and all that, I wouldn't have wanted to dwell on that, but Mr. Speaker, you see, since Ghana became Ghana, we have always used gold to support our reserve accumulation. So it has always been the case that Ghana would use gold, would use cocoa to build reserves. So when you say that during your term, you use gold to build reserves, nobody has said that never happened. What we are doing today is to introduce a clear policy that will have a coordinated means to build reserves to an unprecedented levels that Ghana has never seen before. That is the difference. And Mr. Speaker, I listened to them. I just want to respond to a few of the things that they said. My friend Gideon Boako was questioning why the committee that will lead in the preemption of the gold is chaired by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and not the governor. Mr. Speaker, this House passed the Minerals and Mining Act, and we passed the Gold Board Act. In fact, Section 7 of the Minerals and Mining Act 2006 says the minister has the right of preemption of all minerals raised. The authority to invoke the preemption right is given to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. So you cannot bypass him and go and give the power through a policy to any other person apart from the person who has been given that authority by the laws of this land to do so. So that is as simple as that. And he also questioned why we are recommending. Mr. Speaker, he also questioned why we are recommending through this policy that if we decide to liquidate gold that is purchased through this program, it should go through cabinet and come to parliament. It is to enhance transparency and to allow Ghanaians to have a say in the assets that we are going to accumulate. Are you not happy that we are bringing it to parliament? So we, those who are calling for better transparency, for people's representatives to actually have a say in how we do this, you are now turning back to question us. And Mr. Speaker, in fact, we don't want to do anything in secrecy. We want to do it feely. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, another thing that they mentioned was that it is because we want to do state capture. Everybody in this country knows the regime that wanted to practice state capture in this country. So you cannot describe us as a regime that is interested in state capture. Mr. Speaker, I heard others also mention a name here, that this policy was introduced by Dr. Bawumia. Mr. Speaker, not too long ago, we heard somebody saying he was the driver's mate and that he was not responsible for anything that happened within the 8 years. Today, you are trying to mention the driver's mate's name, that he's becoming the driver. No, don't do that. Don't do that because it will not wash. Mr. Speaker, let me come to the substantive issues. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this policy clearly, it is a gold-led reserve accumulation policy. It is not focusing only on gold. And in fact, if you look at page 18 of the policy, you see that the government will deepen structural reforms